Not all delinquency comes from strong desire. Some youths are pulled by a stronger engine after losing their own voice. When juvenile reformatory youths are divided into 4 structures, one fact stands out first. The follower case is very rare. This point should not be misunderstood. It does not mean that youths who follow friends get pulled by the atmosphere and become involved because they cannot refuse are rare in reality as a whole. In lighter delinquent scenes outside the walls, such youths may actually be more common. But youths who come all the way to the end point of a juvenile reformatory may be somewhat different. Those who reach this point often already have some degree of independent delinquent engine formed inside themselves. True follower type youths may remain on the edge of the incident, fall away midway, be hidden behind central figures, and appear less clearly, or may not go together into deeper stages. That is why the fact that there is only one follower case is actually important. When we look at the graph of this case, the first thing that catches the eye is high AC. AC is 37.0 points, much higher than the overall average. By contrast, CP is very low at 24.0 points, and A is also low at 24.0 points. SC is also 25.0 points, lower than average. Meanwhile, NP is slightly high at 35.0 points, and FC is 31.0 points, almost close to average. This arrangement shows a fairly clear structure. The force to set one's own standards is weak. The force to cut things off through one's own judgment is also weak. The force to push again in order to change the situation is also weak. But the force to adjust oneself to the environment and to the climate of a stronger person is very strong. This structure can be summarized in one sentence. The self-steering wheel is weak, but the structure is highly sensitive to a stronger engine outside. The core of this youth is not strong malice. Rather, the core is that the force to say, I don't like this, I won't do this, and I stop here is too weak. This youth does not make the scene. They do not lead the hierarchy. They do not calculate and design. Instead, beside a stronger engine that is already moving, they may gradually lose their own voice and follow that flow. That is why the name follower case fits. The center of this structure is closer to submission than aggression, and closer to drifting than initiative. This youth may have become used to reading the other person's climate before their own judgment in order to survive beside a stronger youth. From the outside, this youth may have seemed like someone who listens well. They did not rebel loudly. They did not take the lead in causing trouble. They lived by adjusting themselves to the given atmosphere. So adults may have seen this youth as a quiet youth, a gentle youth, or a youth who simply followed. But behind that quietness, another structure may be hidden. This youth's high AC is closer to folding the self in order to survive before a stronger climate than to healthy social adaptation. In other words, this may not be adaptation to the rules of society as a whole. It may be adaptation to the stronger youth in front of them, the stronger group, or the heavier atmosphere. So from the outside, this youth may look like a good youth who got swept away. But in reality, they may be closer to a youth who has not held their own steering wheel for a long time. The sentence that best explains this case may not be a grand ideology, but something like this. I was afraid I would be hit if I refused. I was afraid I would be alone if I said no. I just followed. These words may not be cowardly excuses. They may be realistic survival language from a youth whose own standards had been pressed down for too long. This youth may not have wanted delinquency from the beginning, but beside a youth with a stronger engine, they may have gradually lost their own judgment, lost their own voice, and eventually even lost their own position. So this structure is closer to the tragedy of submission than to active delinquency. This youth delinquency is generally not initiative-based. Rather than I did it because I wanted to, it may be closer to I thought I would be abandoned if I refused. I thought I would be hit if I said no. or I just went along and then I ended up here. In other words, this case is better read as drift type delinquency, not initiative type delinquency. In this kind of structure, the actual scene may unfold differently. For example, a strategist type youth with higher A may read the scene from behind, calculate the weak points, and design how to move in a way that is less likely to be caught. By contrast, the youth in the follower case may not be the one who made that calculation. They may move as if pushed from the front and end up standing in the visible place. As a result, the strategist type youth may step back from behind, while only this youth gets caught first. Of course, we cannot determine every role division in an incident from an egogram alone. But it is clearly worth considering the possibility that a structure with high A and low NP calculates from behind, while a structure with high AC and low CP and A is pulled forward by a stronger climate. The danger of this case lies more in self-erasure than in aggression. The fact that both CP and A are very low means that the force to cut off by saying this is not okay is weak. And the force to calmly judge where the situation is going is also weak. In the end, what remains is a reaction that follows the stronger engine in front of them. The fact that SC is also low is even more painful. In the previous three structures, the style differed, but there was still some force to try again, push forward, and change the situation. But in this case, even that force is weak. In other words, learned helplessness may have deeply settled in sentences like these. It won't work anyway. Nothing will change no matter what I do. It's better to just do what I'm told. So even in the delinquent scene, this youth is not at the center. They do not lead, design, or dominate. They may simply follow the flow of the stronger youth and end up standing in the same place of guilt. Because of this, even inside the walls, they may easily fall into sadness and silence. For this youth, the world may not feel like a place they can move with their own hands, but like waves always pushed by other forces. There is also a reason why this case is not a completely closed structure. NP is 35.0 points, higher than average. This means that soft receptivity and warmth toward relationships still remain inside this youth. The problem is that this warmth may have flowed towards self-sacrifice before self-protection. FC is also 31.0 points, so it has not completely gone out. Suppressed desire has not fully disappeared. The wish to do something, the wish to live, and a small movement toward change may still remain somewhere. So this case is closer to a pressed down self structure than to a cold delinquent structure. Standards, judgment, and reattempt have weakened, but the force to feel relationships and a small liveliness still remain. That becomes the clue for recovery. What this case needs first is small experiences of self-decision. First, CP must be recovered. This youth needs small standard training in saying, I don't like this, I won't do this, and I stop here. Rather than starting with a great decision, they need to rebuild the experience of drawing very small lines. Second, A must be awakened. For this youth, it is more important to judge very small choices by oneself than to have a grand insight. What will I choose today? How will I say what I dislike now? How will I express that I will stop here? How will I distinguish what I wanted from what I did not want? Only when these experiences accumulate can the paralyzed judgment begin to move again. Third, SC must be revived. This youth may have long been pressed down by the feeling that nothing changes even if I try. So through small success experiences, they need to recover the feeling, I can change something too. In other words, what this case needs is not a great awakening. It is the revival of small self-standards, small self-judgment, and small self-propulsion. This youth may have seemed to adults like a youth who listens well. They did not rebel loudly, did not take the lead in causing trouble, and lived by adjusting themselves to the given climate. But behind that listening well, there may have been a life that could not hold its own steering wheel. So the change this youth needs is not to become rebellious. Rather, it is to hold the steering wheel of their own life in their own hands for the first time. Only then can this youth's high adaptability change from a skill of submission into the strength of stable social settlement. The adjustment direction for this case can be summarized in one sentence. A youth who lives by adjusting to other people's climate begins to check their own weather little by little. That is the most important change for this youth. Strong scolding or large goals may not have much effect for this case. This youth has already been pressed down for a long time by stronger voices. So if another strong voice pushes them again, they may learn deeper compliance rather than change. Do not guide without choices. Do not mistake compliance for recovery. Do not demand a great awakening. Continue allowing small self-expression. The egogram of the follower case shows that delinquency does not always come from strong desire and aggression. This youth's own standards are weak. Independent judgment is weak. They fold easily before a stronger climate, and even the will to try again has weakened. In that state, they may have been pushed by another person's flow into the delinquent scene. So the core of this case is not malice, but the suffocation of the self. The most important question when reading this case is this. Before asking, why did this youth follow? And we need to ask, since when did this youth lose their own voice? When we hold on to that question, the egogram of the follower case begins to look not like the chart of a weak youth, but like a map of a youth who needs to hold their own steering wheel again.